The acting U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, Danielle Sassoon, has resigned. Earlier this week, the Justice Department told her to dismiss corruption charges against Mayor Eric Adams. Sassoon says she was, quote, baffled by the rushed and superficial process, end quote, by which the decision to drop the case was reached. Adams pleaded not guilty to the charges and denies any wrongdoing. CBS News Justice Department correspondent Scott MacFarlane is following this for us from our Washington bureau. Scott, for folks who haven't been following this, take us through Sassoon's letter, her reasons for quitting, and why it's so notable.
Her letter was the tip of the spear of what was a really tumultuous, dramatic set of moments inside the Department of Justice. In this letter she submitted to her boss, the U.S. Attorney General, Danielle Sassoon argues this demand that she drop Mayor Eric Adams' criminal case was breathtaking, that it was rushed, that it was ill-conceived, that it did not follow the norms of the Department of Justice. What's critical here is when she was ordered to drop the Eric Adams corruption case, and you'll recall the mayor pleaded not guilty to trading official government actions for gifts. When she was ordered to drop the case, that it wasn't because the facts of the case had shifted or the law had a different view now than it did when the case was filed, or that the prosecutors had a different view of the law than they did when they filed the case. The argument was made that we need Mayor Adams in place to help the Trump administration execute its immigration priorities, that it was a policy and political need behind the request to drop this case. That shatters all kinds of Department of Justice norms, and that's why she resigned instead of actually executing the plan.
And help us understand what we're hearing from Mayor Adams and the Justice Department on all this.
Mayor Adams, through his defense attorneys, has denied the other accusation from Ms. Sassoon that not only was there a political motivation here, but that Eric Adams, through his attorneys, offered a quid pro quo to Donald Trump's team, that if you drop this case, I will help with the immigration enforcement initiatives. They deny that that was the case, but that's part of Danielle Sassoon's very striking statement, that there was not only a political motive here, but that there was some form of a quid pro quo at play, too. She resigned. Then two Washington, D.C.-based higher-level officials inside the Department of Justice were asked to move on this, and they resigned in protest. So, Errol, here's what you have as the day begins in New York and in Washington: a metastasizing scandal that is touching more officials inside the Department of Justice and setting off more alarm bells and triggering more resignations. It may not stop where it ended on Thursday.
And help us understand the bigger picture then, Scott, because earlier this hour we spoke with a professor of law who says this dust-up is unprecedented. So what kind of change does this make to the ways in which laws are executed in this country?
Not only is it unprecedented in nature, but it could set a new pattern for the Department of Justice nationwide. If political motivations and policy initiatives are a new reason to drop a criminal case, that could set a precedent for the nearly 100 federal prosecutors in other offices nationwide. This could become a new norm, and one that Trump's critics would say is an awful new norm for what is supposed to be an independent Department of Justice.
All right, Scott MacFarlane, we appreciate your update on this.